Hello and welcome to another episode of the Transportation Exchange podcast presented by Rush Truck Centers of Canada. I'm your host, Jason Cuddy. On today's episode, we're excited to welcome Chris Hutter from Frew Energy Limited. Chris, welcome to the podcast.
Good morning, Jason. It's good to be here.
Good to have you. So excited to have you here. You're familiar with our business, and we'll get into that in a little bit, but I wanted to start with how you got yourself involved in the industry.
Well, first of all, thanks again for having me. I have been listening to your podcast, and I've really enjoyed hearing your guests. You've had some great guests on, and I think it's a great initiative that you've started here. For me, starting in the transportation industry, that probably started back in about 1989. I was a university student in Toronto, and to earn some money, I was greasing trucks for Gary Cooney at Cooney Transport.
Nice.
So when classes were done, I'd head over there and crawl under trucks and make a mess and learn a little bit about the industry. So that's where it all started for me.
Right on. So yeah, I mean, you find people kind of dive into it by accident, or they dive into it through family. So kind of like myself, you kind of stumbled into it, as a way of kind of offsetting the school part. And so you get a little dirty. After getting a little dirty, how do you clean yourself up, and where do you go next?
So when I did graduate, which was 91, for the older folks out there, they'll recall it was not a great work market. Jobs weren't too plentiful, but I was fortunate enough to find a fabulous job dispatching on an evening shift, and I say that with a wee bit of sarcasm. When I was newly married, my wife was a nurse. I worked evenings, she worked nights, and we saw each other on the occasional weekend. So that's resulted in 30 years of marriage, so I guess it's a recipe for success.
There's your secret.
Yeah. Not too long after, it was Trimac Transportation I was working in dispatch with, which was a great company. And in 91 with them, I was able to figure out how to get a transfer to another division of Trimac, which was Rentway Truck Leasing. So that was in about 91. And that was my first sales role. And I can tell you I was really jazzed about getting into sales after doing afternoon dispatch.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so that was a fabulous time. I learned a ton. I was green and young and didn't know when to stop, so that turned out pretty good. Penske Truck Leasing bought Rentway in 2000, and I continued to work there till 2010. So that was the biggest stop along my career, nearly 20 years working with many of the same people.
That's a good one. And, knowing, having been in the industry a while, Penske themselves, they're definitely good at holding on to their guys. So you can see how you put a long term in there, and, you develop a lot of friendships, and you grow with everybody and watch everyone, grow and get progressing through the different ranks within the company. So they've been really good at doing that. And you see it even just in your background as well.
Yeah, they do an exceptional job of that. I agree. They know how to grow their own and promote from within, and I certainly learned a lot there. I developed industry relationships, friends over those years. Going back to 91, coworkers, customers that 30 years later now, I'm still in touch with. I still hang out with. I still golf with guys. We still get together for dinner. I do business with lots of people that, quite frankly, I've known for 30 years.
It's crazy.
It is. I don't know, and I haven't worked in too many industries, but I find it hard to believe that there's too many industries where relationships get, travel that long.
Yeah, and we've seen it from the people we've talked to that, this is truly a relationship business, depending on whatever product is you represent or whatever company you work for. We've talked to everyone who owns companies, who sells to companies, who's, does everything in between. And it comes down to relationship, knowing your product is good and be able to have a decent product to sell is important. But at the end of the day, people are buying from people. And most of the time it's a relationship they've established for the last 10, 15, 20 years. And sometimes it's the businesses have the relationship, and the people coming in benefit from that relationship. But it is at the end of the day a very strong relationship based industry.
There is no question about it. There's no question about it.
And then, so, with Penske, you kind of did what I did, is, hey, let me dive into a different world altogether and see what's out there. Kind of after your run there.
Yeah. I mean, I would say Penske and Rentway provided me a training ground that really unmatched. I mean, it was an MBA in general management without question. Back in the day, I mean, go back many years, when companies weren't as big and regulations weren't quite the same, I would get my hands into real estate and labor negotiations, business development, team building, and by the time I was considering moving on, I felt pretty competent in all those aspects of general management. I did take a 5-year detour from the industry, which I think you're alluding to there, where I actually left transportation and I moved into the medical device business. That was a huge departure for me, but I was somewhat testing myself, I think, to turn my hand at something different. The learning aspect of moving into med device, I was leading sales and marketing for Canada for a company that was focused on imaging equipment and software. And the learning curve was huge, and it was a completely different space, but it was really, really challenging, really, really interesting, and a real fresh start for me for a time. I spent about a half a dozen years doing that. But one thing, I mean, big takeaway for me was, that winning business and such, whether it was in med device or whether it was in truck leasing or transportation or truck sales, again, it all comes back to, listening to people and building trust and building deep relationships. And that was a really neat experience.
Yeah, and I've seen it with other people as well. Friends of mine who have, a VP of sales for one part of the industry, go to a completely different world. But the skills you learned and having, I think, spent enough time where you were and the training you've got and the experience you had allows you to take all those skills, apply it to a totally different industry, realizing the product's different. You don't have maybe the deep relationships personally as you did, from where you left, but the process is the same, and you just apply it, and you end up seeing results. Winning results, come out of winning practices. So, you've learned that from the past. You can apply it and you see it work, and then you're just a matter of kind of building up your own personal relationships to kind of get deeper into that world.
Absolutely. It was a test in practicing what you've been preaching. You've been telling your people and your sales teams, this is how you develop relationships. This is how you listen. This is how you get stuff done, and you get to go apply it in a different arena, and it proves true.
Yeah. Nope. Fair enough. And then a good departure, but like most of us who leave, we all find our way back.
Yeah. It's like the Hotel California, I guess. You can check out, but you can never leave. And
Exactly.
I had more than a few friends that referenced that when I returned to the industry in 2014. Yeah. So in 2014, I was fortunate enough to have an opportunity to join the Tallman Group. I'd known Kevin, crossed paths, through my many years in the business, and he was offered me an opportunity to join his team as a VP of sales, and I found myself surrounded by a number of friendly faces. Coming back to the industry, I was, office next to the same individual that I worked with Rentway at Rentway many years ago. It was great to come back. Absolutely fabulous to come back, and I also had the opportunity to make your acquaintance while I was at the Tallman Group.
Correct. Yeah, that's kind of where our paths kind of connect. Despite all the years beforehand, I don't think we ever really crossed paths before, at least, professionally. We probably at certain industry events, but without knowing each other officially. But yeah, we had the opportunity to chat, and you were the catalyst of me coming on board here. So I appreciate that. And it's, it came on, I guess, just before the Rush integration. So it was still Tallman when I joined, and you helped kind of walk us through and guide us through that part of it as all that happened, with regards to the sales team and kind of how we wrap our heads around being part of an acquisition in a larger company.
Yeah, when I joined Tallman Group, they were a mere 7 dealerships, and now I'm sure they're 20 plus and part of the largest network in North America. So it's really exciting to see what they've accomplished, and it was great to work with the Rush team through that period. I will admit when we first crossed paths and you came to join us at Tallman. Back then, I had no idea you'd be hosting a radio show. That wasn't, I don't even think that was on your resume.
I don't even think podcasts, I mean, I guess they were a thing, but it wasn't something I ever thought would happen either. But it's something we've morphed into that's been really fun. So being, a company such as Rush has given us the opportunity to do this. So it's, I'm grateful for them for allowing us to do this and have some fun with it and open it up to everybody.
I'm glad you have.
So now today, you are currently the partner and a senior VP at Frew Energy Limited.
Yeah, I joined Mark Frew, who was the only owner of Frew Energy back in 2019. Mark was getting ready to digest an acquisition of a company in the GTA, which was going to be doubling the size of the business, and that's when I came on and joined him in partnership. An exciting move for me. Some opportunity to turn my hand at some of those more general management skills that I'd developed way back when. So that was an exciting opportunity.
Nice. So Frew, for those aren't overly familiar, kind of walk us through a bit of their history. What do they do? Their imprint in the market.
So Frew Energy is a dedicated partner of Suncor, also or more frequently known as Petro-Canada. And we sell and deliver Petro-Canada products across the GTA throughout southwestern Ontario, west to about Woodstock. So we've got 7 offices and 9 commercial card lock sites. And we deliver fuel products, lubricants, DEF across that marketplace.
Excellent. So part of the interesting part of kind of wrap my head around what Frew does is, by nature of everything I've done, fuel and, lubricants haven't really been a large part of my world directly, but obviously it's a huge part of the industry and everything that we do and touch. And, I would kind of run and wrap my head around, I'm used to it as a consumer. I get gas here, I get gas there. I kind of go here. We understand the shops obviously have their partnerships. From a fleet side point of view, where's the difference of them partnering with someone, like your company and what you guys offer versus just kind of doing it ad hoc from a retail point of view? Yeah.
So our customer base primarily falls into 4 segments. We service the agriculture, the farmers, the transportation business, the transit business, and the construction business. And all of those consume vast quantities of diesel, dyed diesel, clear diesel, and as well have a significant need for lubricants. We look at each of these segments, look at the opportunity to drive efficiencies, drive safety, and drive out costs. And when we get to know a client's business, we look for those opportunities to provide solutions where we can, take out costs, do things safer, do things quicker, allowing them to save money, to operate more efficiently. And the solutions really, they vary from client to client depending on what their needs are. It comes back to that relationship and listening, I guess. In some cases, we're filling directly to trucks in their yards, or filling directly to heavy equipment on construction sites, filling directly to locomotives while they're between traveling. And in some cases, it means building full fuel systems, tanks, dispensers, monitors, card locks, software, and all the likes, and putting those on customer sites so that they can better manage their fuel.
Nice. And I know here at one of our locations, I think we've just gone to an on-site storage system here. and I guess part of it might be obviously coming back to just the relationship, understanding what the customer needs and wants. When it comes time for a fleet to consider scaling up to on-site versus, delivery to the unit itself, what are some things they got to consider? What are some things you kind of talk them through when they're looking at that option?
I mean, if you're operating a fleet of equipment or a fleet of trucks, and you have a property that could possibly house a tank, a pump, a card lock, possibly. You'd be surprised they come in sizes anywhere. We've have setups anywhere basically between 2,200 liters to 73,000 liters. So scale all depends on the size of the need. But if a value proposition can be made or the economics can justify avoiding you running trucks to the station, there's time and money to be saved there. I mean, your average trip to the station is going to be, 25-minute turn, and that's if it's on your way. And when you're dealing with inclement weather, there's all kinds of other considerations to take in, safety included. So, in many instances, a client will find it advantageous to have a setup on site. And in some cases where a fuel tank setup on site is not the answer, then direct to equipment might be the answer. It doesn't fit everyone, but it sure makes sense for a lot of companies.
Yeah, I see it definitely. The direct to the equipment I'm familiar with, and I see it a lot. And having done the trailer world back in the day, we would have deliveries right to the yard for obviously the shunt trucks that aren't licensed to go on the road, so you have no choice. The fuel's got to come to you.
Got to figure it out, yeah.
Reefer trailers, keeping them running, all that type of equipment that isn't necessarily mobile on its own or shouldn't be mobile on public roads. That your services allow them to keep them running, and especially now we're definitely a 24/7 world with the warehouses running 24/7, businesses booming from that side. Time is of the essence, and having moving equipment around to retail locations or even a card lock location isn't overly cost efficient, like you said. So there's some value, and time is money, as they say, and there's a huge amount of time sucked up bringing the equipment over to fuel versus the other way around.
Absolutely, and those in the transportation business know that getting more for what you're doing is a tough ask, and sometimes you need to be focusing on the cost side and looking at where the opportunities exist. And I think an openness to explore solutions like this is really the key, and that's what our sales team asks when they're out on the street is can we explore this, see where it goes, and see if it makes sense.
No, which is a great way to do it, because I know, like I said, from my world, I'm used to on-site only, obviously, or going, to get the fuel. So being able to reach out to company yourself, having that conversation and a question, say, here's where my business is, here's where I'm going. We see a lot of companies, especially in DGA, are scaling fast. Mm-hmm. So what worked for them last year may not be the best solution for them next year, or pull you in as they're looking to grow. Like, we always think, from my world, from the truck side, you want to be involved with the customer, help them grow, kind of look at their 5-year plan. How do we help you structure that? Well, there's so many other partners they got to consider, and you guys are another piece of that pie for them, as far as, okay, if we grow from this many trucks, that many trucks across this many locations, how can we better service our equipment and minimize our downtime and reduce cost, but, still keeping everything on the road? It all starts with a conversation. Yeah.
Yep.
It's absolutely true. I mean, that's from what you've done, from day one with Hensk World, and you learn it is, it's sales 101, as far as it goes back to building a relationship, right? Absolutely. It's getting to know your customer, understanding what they're doing today, what are they trying to do differently, where are they headed, and based on the expertise you have and the relationships you have, how can we partner with them and help them be successful, in the long term?
Absolutely.
There's a lot to take in, and even when I was looking at it, I totally forget agriculture, construction. There's so many other facets, and we service all those industries and what we do, but you always forget about the fuel part. That again, tractors out in the field aren't coming to get fuel. Stuff that's 30 feet in the ground digging the next condo. It doesn't really have a means of getting out and getting fueled up. So I forget half that stuff. I just always think trucks, and there's way more to what you do than just my world.
It is our current reality. I will say is there's a lot of consumption that continues to exist, and we just try and make it simple and efficient and safe.
Yeah, and which is what you want for everybody, right? Give them a way to operate safely and be efficient and be profitable while they're doing it.
Absolutely.
And for me, again, not fully knowing everything your world does, I'm familiar seeing the card locks out there, sort of understand them, quick crash course for someone like me, 101, the benefits of a card lock for a fleet.
Yeah, I mean, any scale that a transportation company has, I would encourage them to be looking at some sort of, wholesale relationship as opposed to just strictly a retail relationship. So there's opportunity out there, even if you're not changing your mode of acquisition as far as your fuel requirements go. There's certainly opportunity to be having a conversation about, can we establish a relationship utilizing card locks, buying wholesale, fixing price off rack, as opposed to just taking whatever's posted at the pump. So, yeah, certainly not a one size fits all. So, we've got clients that we appreciate significant amounts of business with that are our card lock Petropass customers, and then we've got clients that we do all kinds of neat and interesting things for as well.
Nice. And yeah, because I know we've got a card lock at one of our locations on site. I see the trucks running in and out, and most of them aren't ours, but it's you see, and like I said, the scale and understanding fleets, and it helps someone like me as I go out, talk to customers, and they're growing, to help them understand, how do we scale your business? How do we help manage your costs? And, then it's going back to relationships, pulling in someone like yourself and your team to talk to one of my customers, say, hey, you're at a size now. If you're not doing it, have a conversation. There might be something there for you. maybe you're not there yet, but at least you can understand where it is and where it fits. And if you get to this many trucks, then hey, that seems to be kind of the breaking point. But you're, for someone like myself, we're providing value to our customers based on the relationships we have with, other people in the industry that help, at the end game, build relationships for you to them, and the customers, win at the end of the day.
Absolutely.
Well, gives me a lot more information as far as understanding, how the go-to market is with the fuel delivery and lubricant delivery, and where it plays in the market. So I appreciate you sharing all that information, and your history. Again, well-known in the industry. We appreciate you taking the time to come out and chat with us, and it's been a good chat. It's been good to connect again. And again, thank you for bringing me on board here back in the day.
Hey, it's worked out great for you. So yeah. I'm certainly glad. I would throw it a little plug here.
For sure.
Couple things I should mention about the business. We also service a residential customer base, providing home heating oil. And as well as that, we provide HVAC installations and maintenance. So that's a side of the business that's interesting and certainly very different from the commercial side of the business. On the commercial side of the business, I'd also mention full line of Petro-Canada lubricants, bulk def solutions, packaged products. We've got 3 warehouses, and we're delivering DEF and lubricants across the market. Just want to thank you for having me today. It's good to see you again.
You too.
It was nice to be back at Rush headquarters here, see many friendly faces, and I wish you all the best in both your Rush business and your podcast business.
Well, thank you, and I appreciate you taking the time to come on and sharing your story and the business and the where it plays in the market, and even to the residential side, because not all of us own businesses, but we all some of us have older homes that run different fuel, and definitely we all have HVAC systems. So it's always good to know you've got somebody in the industry who you can give a call to and get some help if needed. So again, appreciate you coming in and sharing the story for us.
My pleasure.
That concludes today's episode. I want to thank Chris from Frew for joining us. And as always, be sure to subscribe for notifications of new episodes. And thanks for listening.